Welcome back to another Chi-Town Cigar podcast, the podcast where Chicago guys line up and find a cigar and get into everything from sports and current events to hobbies, life's little moments, and everything in between. Whether you're here for the cigars, the conversation, or just some good laughs, we got you covered. So grab your favorite smoke, throw in, and join us for laid-back chats with a Chicago twist. Now it's time to put some smoke in the air. Sheldon, hello.
Teddy, how's it going?
How are you, my friend?
I could be better. That was a great intro. Unfortunately, I'm not able to smoke because I'm traveling and I'm stuck in a hotel. So rather than absorb that fine, I figured I would just kind of, live vicariously through you and, enjoy watching you smoke your cigar. So, but other than that, I'm good. I'm good.
That's good. Today, we're gonna talk about something. Everybody's like very different about it. A lot of opinions about it. Different talks. We're gonna talk about the guiding to aging cigars.
Yeah.
Um, we're gonna talk about everything you need to know about cigars, about aging. First of all, I'm smoking something um, a little bit old. Doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Secretos de Arte by Agrinorsa Leaf, uh,
Hmm.
2016 cigar. I even have the cellophane here. You can kind of tell it's a
Yeah.
little
That's a good.
aged.
That's a good color. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever
Uh,
whenever you see that yellow cellophane, that means that it's been sitting for a while. Oils have been absorbed out of that stick. So generally speaking, that's a good sign. I've seen a couple of manufacturers just like offer yellow cellophane. Like I think Partagas does that. And it can be a little misleading sometimes, but most cellophane is clear. So when you see that yellow, that means that there's definitely a couple of years on that stick.
yeah, definitely. Same thing with Perdomo Champagne. That he has the yellow cellophane, so it
It
kind of
might
mis.
it might be Perdomo that I was thinking
Is it
about.
the?
You're
It's
yeah,
probably
you're
thinking
correct.
Perdomo.
The
Yeah.
champagne, yep.
So that's what I'm smoking today. It's from 2016, so it's 9 years that this came out. Obviously, now it's Agrinorsa Leaf. It used to be Sabora Agrinorsa
Hmm.
uh, with Casa Fernandez. It's a really good cigar. Really good. It has some age on it. Wrapper, San Andres, binder and filler from straight from Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Um, and basically, that's what we're gonna talk about today: aging cigars. It, we're gonna. What do you think? What is everything we need to know? Um, but let's start with this. How have you been though? Anything exciting this week?
Yeah, actually, I mentioned I'm in a hotel. I'm out in Oshkosh, Wisconsin,
Oh,
because I'll be conducting two lectures this week on power system design. As I mentioned in the past, I'm an electrical engineer by trade, and I'll be providing these two classes for the University of Wisconsin Oshkosh students, kind of get them a little bit up to speed as to what's expected of them in the industry. I've been an engineer for 25 years, so I've got a little dirt under my nails, so to speak. I don't want the electricians to jump at me because they're just going to call me a desk jockey, but whatever. I've spent some time in the field a little bit. But it's very important that these engineers or these would-be engineers get a little practical experience. I didn't get that when I was in college. It was all theoretical. I wish I could have had a field person, an engineer, a tech, an electrician come in and tell me what to expect. So that's what the classes are going to be about. I have two this week, two next week, and then a fifth one in the middle of May. So I'm pretty excited about that. The school and the professor has been great to work with. So we're putting together the syllabus for them. We're going to be teaching a couple of classes down there, and hopefully we can, get some qualified graduates to come and help us out at my company because we're definitely looking for that help. But
so
other than that, yeah, about the same old thing, man. It's the big thing going for me. But other than that, just maintaining, trying to pull a little smoke in the air when I can.
So I could just call you Sheldon the Professor then from now on.
They've already started.
Right?
Already started. My buddies are like, "Hey, Professor Sheldon, where's the blazer with the elbow patches?" I'm like, I mean, I'm not going to say I don't have any. I mean, I have some laying around, but yeah. First things first. Let me get through the first lecture and hopefully not get hit with tomatoes and rotten eggs.
I'm glad you're doing good.
Yeah, thanks.
I know Marty and Mike talked about it. There was like a little devastation happened. AJ Fernandez factory. I don't know if you heard about it.
Yeah, it's a big fire, right?
A big fire.
Yeah.
Yes. It's unfortunate. Thank God it wasn't it. Where the tobacco is and all the everything that they make the cigars is, it was mostly at was the manufacturer, the bands, and all the basically what they kind of make this the packaging in the end. So it wasn't. It was devastating, but I just want to mention that I know Marty and Mike on Tuesday they talked about it. It's just unfortunate that happened. So hopefully,
and hopefully there were no like major injuries or fatalities. I don't know if anybody suffered at the hands of that. Personally.
Yeah, I didn't see any fatalities or anything.
So that's the most important part. That nobody was hurt. Yeah, yes, for sure.
Absolutely. So start the episode. We're gonna talk about everything you need to know about cigar aging. Cigars are like wine, and you know that. Most of the people that I smoke, aging cigars is a process that enhances the flavor, the aroma, and overall smoking experience for an individual, right?
Yep.
Cigar enthusiasts believe that aging premium or custom cigars is an art that requires patient care and a little bit of luck. Let's start before we get into what is aging for you? What are aging in cigars for you?
So the way I think about it, and it differs from cigar to cigar, but for me, whenever I buy cigars, like in bulk, like if I buy a box or something, what interests me is how's this cigar going to get better, or will it get better? So I have a humidor at home, and what I'll do is I'll put my cigars in my humidor. I keep my humidor right at around 68% relative humidity, about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'll let the cigar sit for a couple of weeks and a couple of months to see if there's any improvement. Now, how do I know if there's improvement? If it's a box, I'll take one as soon as I get it. I'll pull it out of the box. I'll smoke that guy. I'll take some notes, see what I think about it, as far as flavor, as far as construction, as far as burn. How's it burning? Is it burning well? Are we getting tunneling, canoeing? Is it dry? Is it moist? All of these kind of notes in my head. And then I'll let these cigars sit 3 months, 6 months, a year, and I'll smoke them at intervals to see if there's any improvement, or actually is there any degradation? Does it get better? Does it get worse? Is it about the same? And again, I'm looking at those three things. I'm looking at the flavor. Does the flavor enhance? Like your reference of wine, they say wine gets better with age. When they say that, they mean it tastes better with age normally. But with cigars, you want to make sure that it's burning correctly, that the construction is good, and all of that. So this is kind of what I think about when I think about aging. I want to take these cigars, I want to put them in a regulated environment and let them naturally mature. Another term used with winemakers, let it mature and see if it's going to get any better. There's no guarantee that it'll get better. It might get worse. That's rare. But ideally, I want to put mine in that environment and, let it mature, let it get better. And then compare and contrast from day 1 to day 30 to day 60 and just see if there are any differences. Make that mental note and, share that information. Oh, man, this stick was great right out of the box, but 6 months later, it was amazing. Or the opposite, it's not as good as when I first smoked it. So
yeah, that's kind of what I usually do.
Thinks. Yeah,
that's what I usually do. 70% degrees, 70 degrees. I mean, in this try to get 70% for humidity. Usually averages about 68, 69,
Yeah,
especially
same.
in the winter. When it comes to summer, obviously the humidity goes higher. But that's what it is. The aging process allows the tobacco to leave the fermented and mellow. Um, During the aging process, the oils and the flavors become more refined and balanced, so you can get the enjoy smoother cigar.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a lot of people out there that have different tactics, but when it's a regular environment, like you said, you're gonna get a cigar that's gonna age for a long period of time. Um, but let's make this clear, and me and you agree before. A bad cigar, and we get this from the beginning, so we don't have to talk about it later. A bad
Right.
cigar is not gonna make it better if you age it.
Right.
Let's
Right.
get that straight.
That's 100%. We have to work with what we have. If you've got a rusty, burned out car with 600,000 miles on it, setting it in a nice warm garage over the summer isn't going to make it any better. You know what I mean? It's like you really have to start with somewhat of a quality product. Um, to say it's a bad cigar is somewhat subjective. If I don't like it, that doesn't mean you don't have to like it. But we're talking objectively, short fillers, not, rolled properly, sometimes some, and this is not necessarily the major manufacturers, but some of these small batch ones, maybe may not make the best product. They're not starting with the best tobacco. They don't have the best rolling practices. Objectively, it's a bad cigar. Thinking that letting this cigar sit for 6 months is going to make it better is kind of a fallacy. You hope that it'll get better, but there's no guarantee. It might stay the same, it might get worse. There may be some improvement, but improvement on a bad cigar, it may still just be a bad cigar. Now it's an aged bad cigar. So, I don't believe in taking a cigar I don't like and trying to age it in order to get me to like it.
Have you tried that before?
I have.
Did it change?
I've noticed that the things that I didn't like about it was still there. It had a flavor profile that I wasn't a fan of. Maybe a little bitter, maybe a little harsh. I let one cigar sit for about 6 months, and that flavor profile was still there. Now, somebody that likes that, they may have been able to notice that it's a little different, it's a little smoother, but to me, it didn't change at all. And that just, that's just the way it is with me off the bat. And as we're talking about it, I just want to mention that we're not talking about pulling the tobacco leaf out of the ground while it's still green and taking it to the roller and then rolling it up. In general, every tobacco leaf is aged to a degree before it's rolled, right? So you'll see that this is why you can take a cigar right out of the box, smoke it, and it can be amazing because there is some aging going on there. With a better stick, though, the longer you let it sit, ideally, the better it's going to get. This is a good cigar. But if you're starting with a bad cigar, number one, that cigar's tobacco's been aged as well. Maybe not as long, maybe not under the best conditions, which might lead to it being a bad cigar. But if it has the initial qualities that make it undesirable, aging is not necessarily going to help that out. So you just
Yeah,
have to kind of take that into consideration when you generally should be buying cigars that you like or maybe that you want to give it a shot. But this goes back to what I said earlier. You try it first and then you age it and then you can make the difference between the two. But it is going to be something that you're going to want to smoke. Don't try to make, a bad cigar into a good cigar simply by aging.
yeah. A well-aged cigar will burn better. It release various flavors that will decrease the harshness when smoked. So it's up to the every individual the time as long as they want to, the desire to age it. So
Correct.
it's most of the time I my thumb rule is to age my cigars when I get them from a humidor, put them in my humidor about 2 weeks. It for me it's better.
Yeah.
It gets better. I feel that the aroma will be better, and I think the largest cigars from Toro and bigger gate cigars will age better.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the
I agree. I
thicker or
agree
big,
with that.
the bigger gates have more tobacco inside of it, so it's allowing it to age an extended period of time. For example, for a Lancero, I do not think a Lancero is aging, but again, it's up to individual who wants to, um, whatever you wanna, you wanna not age it. Like you said before, there's some tobacco that is already aged when it's rolled,
Yeah.
and you don't have to age it like we talk about it.
Yeah.
How long do you think we can age the cigars? Do we have a limit?
I
Or
I don't I don't think there's a limit. I think that when you have an ideal environment that you can maintain, even with some lapses, people will use the humidification packs and things like that, beads, water, whatever the case may be. Um, you can have some lapses in there and still be able to maintain it, but you want to stay consistent. So long as you maintain that window of temperature and humidity, there are people out there that have cigars that have been aging for 20, 25, 30 years. And those, after a while, they kind of turn into investments because, like the stick that you're smoking, you're not smoking it anymore. They're not making it anymore. So, yeah, if you think about some of the higher end cigars, plus the fact that they've been aging in a regulated environment for 2 decades or so, there is some value to that. But I don't believe that there's a time limit. I don't know the longest aged cigar in the world. I'm sure there's someone that knows that information. But I feel like as long as the environment is right, there's no limit to how long you can keep those cigars.
you're absolutely right. So before we continue, totally forgot to say hello to our viewers. We got 10 viewers right now. It's between X and YouTube. So
Yeah.
uh, uh,
Hey, viewers.
hello, viewers. So if you guys watching us, give us some thumbs up on YouTube for the episodes. Um, how the aging process does not stop, like we talk about it, when it is rolled in packets. They will continue to age in their packaging, and the process can be accelerated or slowed down depending on how you store them.
Yeah.
So, like we said in the beginning, you have to have a good humidor,
Yep.
a nice environment, and not something that it could create problems with the cigars in the future.
Yeah.
It's important to know that cigars do go for a long term. Like I
Hmm.
said, this is from 2016. I mean, I had a cigar that somebody bought me. It's from 1946. It's really there's a site in Tampa uh, that the guy sells aged cigars from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's I have not smoked it. It's not like I'm afraid. It's just I don't want to ruin it. It's just
Yeah, yeah. Kind of goes back to that kind of investment mentality. It's like you don't know what to expect. You imagine it's going to be amazing, but you don't know. And to light something up that's old. That's definitely in my opinion kind of like a special occasion kind of stick. But at the same time, I don't consider myself a collector. I consider myself a smoker. So if I'm buying it, I'm smoking it, and I'll just let the chips fall where they may, because that's an incredible thing to be able to do. I went to a lounge in on the north side of Chicago, and there's this manufacturer that manufactures Lanceros, Edgar Hoyle, and those cigars they were Lanceros, and there was a box that if anybody knows this lounge, shout out to Up Down.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they they have several different humidors, and
And also,
where they
and
store.
old school humidors with the
Yeah,
sliding doors. Yeah.
correct. Yeah, they've got the sliding glass with the built-in cabinets, but in the front of the store they have a I guess if you want to call it a bargain section or a clearance section, whatever. But what I've come to find, and I'm kind of letting the secret out a little bit, you've got some incredibly aged cigars in there. So these Edgar Hoyle Lanceros, they had been in there. What the person working there told me, they'd been back there for 12 years
Wow.
when I bought them, and that cellophane was so it was almost bordering on like a dark yellow, almost to brown. That oil had really just saturated it. And speaking of the cellophane, I just want to make a point on that real quick. A lot of people have asked me, and asked cigar smokers in general, well, when I buy this cigar, do I, in order to properly age it, do I have to take the plastic off of the cigar? And the answer is no, mainly because it's not actually plastic. It's cellophane, which is made out of wood fibers and everything. It looks like plastic, feels like plastic, but it basically allows, a little bit of back and forth with air, not enough to ruin the cigar through like over oxidation, if that's even a thing. I don't know. But it allows that aging process to happen. It'll let that temperature and that humidity, kind of permeate the cellophane to allow the cigar to age. And what it does, it gives off that oil. That oil is trapped within the cellophane. That's what's going to give you that color. I couldn't believe it when I was first told. And, a guy was like, well, light it up. See if it burns like plastic. When you light cellophane in the ashtray, it pretty much burns like paper or like wood. It goes up, with not a lot of smoke or anything like that. So I don't recommend doing that. It's just kind of an example. But yeah, I mean, that cellophane definitely does not need to come off in order to help the aging process.
And that's the conversation I had with shout out to Paul from Gab.
Paul.
That's the conversation. It's a friend of mine that I met him through a different site, a cigar site. It his preference is taking all the cellophanes out.
Yeah.
He literally, takes all the cellophanes out and ages them that way.
Yeah.
That's his preference. But from my
And that's
opinion,
fine
is
too.
yeah, and that's fine too. Absolutely. Uh, for example, a lot of I think 90% of padrones don't have cellophane. For example, and
Correct.
my thumb rule is like if the cigar does not have a cellophane, obviously I'm gonna leave it the way it is. But if a cigar has a cellophane on it, I'm gonna leave it aged the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I have done it before multiple times, and I have not seen anything change. Have you had before? Have you taken the cellophane out and aged cigars that way, or what is your go to?
Not
Do you leave them
yeah.
on the cellophane?
Yeah, me typically, I leave the cellophane on. I don't feel like there's too much benefit to removing them. Now, I could be wrong because I haven't done it, but I feel like after all this time, with all the opinions on the internet and in every lounge and every smoke shop, there would be some sort of definitive proof that yes, if you take the cellophane off, it'll age better. But ultimately, it boils down to what you said. It's a preference. It ages well with, it
Mm-hmm.
ages well without. So if you want to take that chance to take the cellophane off, then I don't think it's hurting. Now, in my mind, the manufacturer put that cellophane on there maybe to protect the flavor of the wrapper, because if you've got a bunch of dissimilar sticks that are all stacked in a humidor, maybe they start sharing flavor profiles, and maybe that Davidoff isn't going to taste like a Davidoff anymore. It's going to taste like the Padron right next to it. I don't know
That's
if that's the case, but that's
that's
kind
what
of
I
a
thought.
fear of mine.
That's what I thought before, and I think like you can like you said, you can have a Davidoff that's off the cellophane and having a Maduro right next to it. I feel like the oils is not going to be a good thing, and that's what I have noticed. I mean, I haven't been smoking for 20 years. I've been smoking since 2017,
Yeah.
but it I don't see a benefit. Maybe it's a preference for everybody. I just don't see it because what's your longest cigar that you have in your humidor? Because I think my longest one has to be from the 2019 that I bought.
So if I'm doing a
Look at this.
little,
Look at this.
oh, that's
That's really
nice.
nice. Yeah.
I really love that ash, man. That ash.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll see how long you can go throughout the podcast. See if we can
Without
keep that
without
without breaking it
damping
off.
it.
Yeah, let's see if we can keep that consistent.
Yeah.
But I still have some of those Edgar Hoyles, and I bought them during the like roughly 2021 when we had that ceasefire with COVID, where everybody went back to work for a little bit and then went back inside. So let's say June, July of 2021. If the cigars at that point were 12 years old, then, we're talking, the early 2010s, late aughts, early 2010s, when this cigar was brought to the shop, put in the humidor, and sat for 12 years. So, based on that, I'll say that the two Lanceros that I still have, that I've meticulously maintained at, like I said, 68 to 70, both relative humidity and temperature, we'll call that 2009, 2010, something like that.
Oh, so you got some eight cigars.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not here's the thing. Of course, I'm just teasing you a little bit about not wanting to smoke something really old. The thing with me is that I bought these at a reasonable price, and I've gone back time and again, and I've bought more and I've smoked them. Now the supply is gone, and these two last Lanceros are the only ones that are probably available because nobody knew about them. I'm sure there's some, cigar gurus out there that, have some even older than that. But these are my last two, and I'm just hanging on to them.
Same thing.
So,
Yeah, same thing. I have a box of Perdomo Neuer. That cigar was created in 2005. I still have a closed box.
yeah,
I found it from a lounge in Ohio. Again, my friend Paul found it for me, and I was blessed that that cigar is aged.
yeah.
By the way, we have some comments here from Marty, and he agrees that cellophane also protects a cigar, and I do agree. I feel like it gives it more security inside of aging for the cigar wasn't in the cellophane.
Yeah.
So like Marty agrees, and he's watching us right now. So
Yeah.
I,
I think the individuals that take their cellophane off, maybe to Marty's point, maybe they're extra careful, maybe they're all the same cigar, and he just has like one box full of Padrones or full of Davidoffs, so he's not worried about mixing flavor, and maybe he's laying them down like dominoes in a domino train or something like that. But I feel the manufacturer put them out there, put them in the cellophane for a reason. We're talking about just kind of allowing it to age. It'll still age through the cellophane. But yeah, Marty makes a great point. I mean, protection's everything. This is very delicate tobacco on these wrappers, and they get jostled around sometimes in these humidors when you're rummaging through looking for that certain one. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I 100% agree with that.
so the next question is: are older cigars better than the younger cigars? And to for everybody, for our viewers, this is cremocigars.com. It was an article that we found, me and Sheldon. Uh, some cigars are best with smoking fresh, like we talked about it. Others may require a few years of aging to reach their full potential. However, it, the premium cigars have been aged for several years, tend to offer a more refined and complex smoking experience. And a great example is Nick Perdomo. Nick Perdomo is aging his cigars for a long time. He's tobacco. Someone, I know you don't like Perdomo that much, um, but he ages his cigars for quite some time. He does it for like 10 years,
Yeah.
I believe, and um, I don't think you have to age a Perdomo, but when I first started working at Ultimate Cigar Lounge, Tony had those. The previous owner had these cigars, Perdomo from 2001. It was probably the first Perdomo cigar that he ever made with his dad,
Yeah.
and I still think I have two more sticks in my humidor, and that's an aged cigar. But like we talked about it, would you like always age a younger cigar for your preference, or you're gonna smoke it right away, the first one, and then just age the rest of them?
It's kind of a curiosity thing, honestly, because like we said, all this tobacco is aged prior to being rolled. Some of it is amazing out of the box, but amazing could get better. We don't know. So I don't think it hurts anything to at least give it a shot. But in a lot of cases, if the cigar is really just that good, then aging kind of goes out of the window. And I'll give you an example of that. One of the most elusive cigars of recent times is the CAO Amazon Basin. And, they're really hard to come by. They sell out really fast and for good reason. It's one of my favorite cigars. I've had the Extra Añejo. That was really good. I recently picked up the 2025 release. Amazing. Now, I could say this is a great cigar. Should I age it? Kind of gets lost in translation because I'm too busy smoking them. I've gone through that box in about a month and a half, and even if it's better, it's not going to get much better than it
The ash
is for
fell
me.
off.
What's that?
Got the ash
Oh,
fell off. So dang it,
it
half of the
happens.
cigar. It
I was good. I
happens.
probably jinxed it by even mentioning it. Should have waited till it got
I should
longer.
have hold it up like that.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't feel the need to age the Amazon Basin. Would it get better? Probably. It's a quality cigar out of the box. But I enjoy it so much that I don't feel the need to do that experimentation. I may one day, but it's not necessarily something that I do with cigars that I really like. Now, I'm also a fan of my father, particularly the Le Bijou 1922 and the La Pulencia. But I have aged those for several years and found that they've gotten somewhat to much better depending on the vitola and depending on, either or. So it does make a difference. And, just as an FYI, um, both of these come in cellophane. So it's not like, well, it's going to age differently. Marty mentioned, and this is back to your point, Teddy, we mentioned Padron. The majority of them don't come with cellophane. He also mentioned Liga Privada. It's not critical, right? But in terms of aging, if I like the cigar out of the box, then I'm just going to smoke them. My curiosity isn't that strong where I need to see, well, can it get better? You know, but if there are some cigars, if I have like an excess of them, like I'll get a box of, La Gloria Cubana from one of the budget sites, and, I'll get like 20, and I like them, but I'm not pressed to smoke them. So those ones will sit for a couple of years. Um, and then I'll get back to it and it'll be great. As a matter of fact, I have a very good example of how aging helps potentially lesser cigars. And I told you this story. I bought maybe 3 years ago, I bought a bundle of Oliva Seconds
Mm-hmm.
and wanted to give it a shot. I hear good things, bad things, general comments about Seconds. They were cheap. I might have gotten a bundle of 20 for like $14. Why not? Give it a shot. I tried one and it was so tight, so flavorless, so I couldn't keep it lit. I'm like, oh, this is terrible.
How long did you age it?
Well, I'll get to that. I basically smoked these right out of the box. And, I had the one, maybe a couple more. I'm like, these aren't good. So I just stuck them in the back of my humidor and honestly forgot about them. 3 years later, I'm cleaning my humidor out and I see these, they're Robustos, they're little small guys, right? I'm like, these things were terrible. I'm not going to smoke these anymore. And I pulled them all out and I was walking to the wastebasket when I just had a moment. I was like, well, wait a minute. Maybe they've gotten better over time. So in that moment, I just walked them back to the humidor. I'm like, I'm going to smoke one of these guys. It was a nice day. It was in the summer. Last year, I believe. I'm going to smoke one. And if it's good, we'll see. I don't think so. I mean, these are seconds. It's kind of, somewhat suspect tobaccos. So I'm like, nah, I'm going to smoke it. I don't know if it's going to be good. Teddy, when I tell you that cigar was awesome, it burned so well. The flavor came out. I mean, I'd put it, right at an Oliva O, perhaps. It wasn't strong. It wasn't meant to be strong in the beginning, but the flavor profile was there. The burn was there. The evenness all the way down. So I said, oh, man, I learned a lesson right there. When it comes to, I'm not saying that they were bad out of the box, but generally speaking, when a cigar sits on a shelf for a while, it might need some aging. Like you said, you'll give it about, 2 weeks at a minimum, for certain cigars. These guys sat for, 3 years
3 years,
and just
yeah.
became incredible.
But here's going back in our conversation is if you think something was bad and it ages, it becomes better. So it kind of works, right? For a cigar, even a lot of people say, "Oh, a bad cigar." Even if you give it all the age in the world, it, it's not going to change. Kind of change for you, right?
It could, and that's kind of the gamble. Now, here's the thing: to make the distinction. Obviously, I bought them. I'm familiar with Oliva. I wasn't really that familiar with Seconds, but I'd heard good things about Seconds. It's a good budget stick, and I love a budget stick, especially if it's a good stick. So I didn't smoke it and think that it was bad. I smoked it and thought that it could use some aging. However, because they weren't primary sticks or, things that I really had my eyes on, just by accident, they sat for that 3 years. So if I'd have smoked it in 6 months, probably would have got a little bit better. After a year, for sure. But 3 years, it goes to show it wasn't a bad stick from a flavor profile. It was more construction. And the aging is definitely going to help for construction. It's going to get that humidity in there. It's going to have it regulated at the proper temperature. That's what's going to make it age properly and maybe turn a bad stick into a good stick. I don't bet on that. I'm not buying cigars to just hang on to them for 10 years to hope and see, but it could happen.
I do. You don't do that?
I don't. Like I said, I
Really?
smoke. I don't collect. If I'm buying it to smoke it. I may change my mind, but you know, I have less than 100 cigars in my humidor at home because I go through them. I buy them. I let them sit for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and then I smoke them. So the handful of ones that I have that are really old, that's almost by accident. Because I'll forget about them. They're in the back of the humidor, back of the shelf.
Yeah, a nice comment that Marty said that the Jean Baptiste from Black Star line got it better with a year of age.
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Unfortunately, I kind of slept on it, and that's the one Black Star line stick that I never got to smoke. I hear it's at Benny, so I need to go check it out. But
I don't. Yeah, I
I
haven't tried
didn't.
it yet. Um,
Just to make all the Black Star line cigar watchers and fans out there a little jealous. If you're familiar with the El Milagro Sun Grown Habano cigar with the blue wrapper, it's a black wrapper with blue accents. Well, I have an unopened box of the original run dating back to 2015, no, 2020, 2019, 2020 when they first came out. It's in the original wooden box with the sliding top, very, very early on, before we moved. Matter of fact, these ones were actually rolled out of Elton de Bronze. We got this. This is like the initial run. So I told Eric, the owner of Black Star Line, that I'll crack these open at the 20th anniversary. But yeah, they've been sitting since 2020 in their box in the cellophane, just waiting.
and then, like
So
Marty said on the comments, sometimes you get lucky by having, have the box and underneath has the date on it. And I
mhm,
think that's how my Perdomo Noyers are. They have the 2006 actually
yeah,
year on it, and sometimes you get lucky and you know the exact date.
yeah, it's fortunate when that can happen because now that puts a better, age on the stick. Not only do you know how long it's been aged, but when you put it in your humidor and let it sit for a while, you've got more accurate information. You know.
And then for the people out there, how to store aged cigars. Cigars should be stored in a cool, dark, and dry place away from direct sunlight and extreme temperature changes. Humidity is also essential, like we talked about it, for aging cigars, and this should be stored in a quality humidor with a constant humidity level of around 70%. Some people try to have it 70%. Even not working at Ultimate Cigar Lounge, that's the settings I have the humidor to be at, 65 Fahrenheit and 70% humidity. And actually, I'm following the same thing over here. Same thing with 65, 68% Fahrenheit and 70% humidity with my own humidor, and it's been working great.
Yeah.
Uh, Another thing is that same thing with the lounge, same thing with my humidor. Trying to avoid opening that door for a long time.
Right.
Um, for example, at the lounge, I don't let the people hold the door. Same thing with my humidor. I don't have more than like say 3 minutes the door open because it takes all the humidity out,
Right.
and that just prevents disrupting the humidity levels and affecting the aging process.
This goes
Uh,
back to what we talked about last time. This is a major part of cigar etiquette, right? You walk into the humidor, you close the door behind you, you pull it up. Obviously, you don't go in with a lit cigar because that's going to affect everything in there. But yeah, we want to do our best. A walk-in humidor is no different than the 50 count humidor you have sitting on your desk. It needs to be closed to maintain that temperature and particularly the humidity. I know every time I go into mine's an electric one, and I have a little digital readout that tells me what the humidity is, and it'll sit at 69.2%. As soon as I open it, that humidity is dropping immediately because now it's
mm-hmm.
getting the ambient air of the room. So there's no way I'm going to open my humidor. Oh, I forgot something in my office and run over there and just leave it open. That door needs to stay closed, because that's going to be the best way to maintain that humidity, and it's a natural thing at a shop. People are in and out all the time, but you don't want to make it worse by trying to hold the door open. You walk in, you close the door behind you. You walk out, you close the door behind you. It's common sense if you think about
It's
it.
common sense, and
Yeah.
and like Marty says, he has topper doors with 65% Bovitos. A lot of people just don't have only humidors, or they have topper doors and Tupperware, and they keep the cigars for a long time aging. and I know a lot of guys that they do that. Is do you have just a humidor, or do you have any tupper doors or
When I
any
when I had
jars?
when I had more stock, when I had more inventory at home, I basically went into the kitchen and grabbed one of the Tupperdoors there, scrubbed it down really good, to get any like food smells out of it. Even though it's been washed, sometimes it lingers. And then I found that it worked so well, I just went out and bought a couple more, just brand new ones, and had some stock in there. So I have them sitting. This is back when I had a smaller wooden desktop humidor that only held 50. So I needed more space. The humidor that I have now holds 250. And like I said, I'm under 100. So I don't really need them anymore. But what we're talking about with keeping these doors closed, we're talking about keeping it airtight. And that is the claim to fame of these these Tupperware packages, these, airtight, sealed packages. You want to have the temperature maintained, you want to have the humidity maintained. If they're in there with the Bovida packs or with any other humidification products, it's going to maintain that humidity. There's no leakage, there's no way for air to get open unless you open it. So I have a jar, and it was, well, jars kind of, it's basically just a cylinder. It's got a airtight seal at the top, holds about 25 sticks. And yeah, that one kept humidity very well. And it was pretty good because you could actually look at it and see the cigars. So, you don't really have to open it, rummage through, let that humidity out. You can kind of see exactly what you want, open it, grab it, close it, good.
So
So
for
yeah.
that, I got two airtight jars, and believe it or not, I have Bovito packs from 2020 and still kicking
Yeah.
in there, and
Yeah.
it's amazing when it's airtight, containers like that. Because when it comes to desktop humidors, sometimes they don't hold very good humidity. They kind of
Yeah.
leak out, and you lose the humidity from a desktop humidor.
Yeah.
But when it comes to tupper doors and airtight jars, I
Yeah.
feel like it's better aging on the long term.
Yeah.
Obviously, having a humidor, it's a huge thing. If it's one with it's electronic or just a plain humidor that you have Bovito packs, or the beads that you just put the
Distilled
water in, the
water in there.
distilled
Yeah.
water or the cigar water, and that way
Hmm.
it keeps the humidity. Um,
Yeah.
but
I was
yeah, it's
always
it's it's
told,
plenty of ways to do it.
yeah, I was told early on, I've never owned one. So I don't know if this is true or not. I believe it. It makes sense. But with the desktop humidors, I was told at all costs, when it comes to aging, avoid the ones with the glass tops.
Yes,
I was always told that, it's going to let in light, which potentially could, be a heat source depending, but, just the light itself. It made sense in context. I can't imagine that these things are, being made, it would like harm the cigar, but maybe they're just for temporary storage, you know you've got some CEO, I'm going back to the 50s here, but you've got some CEO with a box of cigars on his desk and he just hands them out for all of his clients. Something like that where they're not meant to be aged. It's more of just like temporary storage. We know we're going to smoke them, and they kind of, they kind of sit there briefly where they're actually being aged somewhere else.
you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have a desktop with a glass top. Yes, it's one of the ones that use a lot of distilled water or the cigar water that I have,
Hmm.
and it does take uh, more preparation and more of keeping the humidity in the same point. So uh, it does affect it, and I
Yeah.
would say so. So before we continue, I want to thank our sponsors. We're gonna talk about eyewear fix. Hey, Chicagoland, are you ready to step up your eyewear game? Whether you need stylish sunglasses, prescription eyewear, sports glasses, safety gear, or even color deficient glasses, is only one place to go. For over 28 years, Chicagoland's premier sunglasses and eyewear store has been your go-to for every eyewear related. No gimmicks, no waiting rooms, just top-notch products expert service, and private. So shout out to Chris if you have any questions. 630-853-4167. Schedule an appointment. And of course, for Ultimate Cigar Lounge is our second sponsor. Um, Sheldon knows about it. I work there. There's not much we can talk about Ultimate, but a great lounge. You want to come and find your
Teddy, I don't know if you
sticks?
can hear me. I just lost audio.
No, I can hear you.
I can't hear.
You can't hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Oh, we lost Sheldon. Let's see. Are you back, Sheldon? Check.
Not sure what's going on. You've lost audio. Or at least I have.
Can you hear me better now? Can you hear me?
I can only see your lips moving, but I can't hear anything.
Oh, Sheldon. Let's see.
Can't hear anything.
Can you hear me? Oh, we lost Sheldon. Oh, boy. Sheldon, you're back? Got some technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see.
Yeah. I'm still not able to hear anything. I'm dead in the water. I'm not sure what happened. I mean, I don't know. Can you even hear me?
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's nuts. I don't know what happened.
What happened, Sheldon, is because you were in Wisconsin. That's what happened. You hear me? Oh, we lost Sheldon.
Oh, this is awkward.
Awkward.
Yeah, my audio is gone, and yeah. I mean, luckily we made it to the 52nd minute, but yeah, I don't know.
Let's see if we can bring you back, Sheldon. See, maybe Sheldon could come back and rejoin the conversation. We always have those technical difficulties. Sometimes technology is not up to our side. But that's what we're talking about for this episode. Basically, the cigars get it better with age. Let's see if I can bring Sheldon back. Let's see. Sheldon, you're back?
Yes, I'm back.
We got him back.
Thanks, Marty. Thanks, Marty. I appreciate the info. Somehow I just lost audio, but I just basically logged out, came back, and here I am.
Yeah, sometimes, like I said to the viewers, we got up to 13 viewers. All right.
Hey,
technology
growing.
sometimes it does that. Sometimes that's what I say. Sometimes technology in the future is gonna ruin us. That's what I said before.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah, but you all bet you can hear me, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Beautiful.
Want to bring up a comment in the or want to mention one of the comments as far as rotation of cigars. I think it's very important, to kind of rotate, not necessarily just spin them around, but to move this cigar to that side, that cigar to this side. You don't want to just let them sit, not that they'll become stagnant or anything else like that. But it's just like anything else. You rotate your tires for even wear. You rotate your cigars so that it's all getting the same level of humidity and temperature from one side to the other. So that is very important, Marty, to get those cigars rotated, be they in the tupperware, in the humidor, 50 count, 100 count, 500 count. Sometimes it's not practical. Some of these guys will have, this trunk of cigars, like 1,000 of them in there. I mean, you do what you can, but yeah, definitely you want to make sure that you're rotating those cigars to
Absolutely, yeah.
maintain that freshness and that aging.
And also just to check, obviously our environment is not like, it's not very hot here in Illinois, but you want to check for bugs or anything like that, any cracks, or to make sure that the cigars are aging properly. But
Correct.
that's a great comment by Marty. You have to rotate. Uh, I would say do it every like 4 or 5 months. I mean, personally, I haven't done it for since this last year. I think
Yeah.
probably was summer. So I think it's time for me to go in there and start rotating some older cigars from the bottom, put it on the top, and that way
Yeah.
you can see if everything is good.
Yeah,
But
I'm at
definitely
about the
recommend.
I'm at about the 6 month mark in general.
Okay.
That's typically when I do my inventory to see what I have, see what I forgot about, that sort of thing. Um, Obviously, I wasn't doing it before where I had those Oliva seconds just sitting, but I think they were like hidden behind the box, and I forgot about them. I don't have to, really. If I pull the box and move it from the bottom to the top, I didn't look behind them, so those ones just kind of sat there. But generally speaking, mine only has 3 shelves, so it's not too hard to rotate. Just switch the 2 shelves and then move the boxes around. So, but yeah, I mean, it is something that I recommend to maintain universal humidification within the humidor.
Absolutely. A few things we want to talk about. It's aged cigars at the factory and aged cigars at the top at the store shelf. I mean, we kind of talked about it already, but have you been in a cigar lounge that the humidification, the humidor is not good? We're not gonna mention names because I've been in some.
That's fair. I've been in some humidors, some shops where the humidity was very, very high, which lent itself to a like soft, spongy, mushy kind of stick. I've been in some where the humidity was down in the 30s and the cigar smoked like rolled up autumn leaves. It just kind of disintegrated, particularly when I was in Canada and I bought some cigars. I could tell that they weren't aged properly. And it was a pretty expensive cigar, to be honest. But I mean, it literally just, the wrapper just flaked off as I was smoking it. I was so disappointed. But yeah, it's important to know your humidor to the degree that you can. You're walking into a place for the first time. You're not in there like a old person, like you're squeezing tomatoes or anything. You hope for the best, but you get an idea of whether or not these cigars in the humidor in general are well aged based on that one that you smoke. And for the record, I've never had a bad stick out of Ultimate Cigar Lounge. I know the previous owner took a lot of pride and care into maintaining it, and the new owners are kind of following suit. So it is good to find a lounge that does take care of their cigars and age them properly. But you will come across those ones, um, especially where cigars aren't the focus, like where you've got these, they'll sell hookah and, cannabis products and everything. And oh, by the way, we've got some cigars over here in the corner. Maybe they're not taking care of them as well as they could be. And it's not going to be the best experience. So yeah, I've seen some bad ones in my day.
Yeah, cigars are like basically like sponges. Whatever the environment is around it, it's that's what's gonna happen to the cigar. And if you're not take care of your humidor, it would go back to the conversation is your humidor matters. Like
Yes.
the way you treat it, the way you treat the humidity to be in the certain levels. That's what you need to have a good cigar and age process throughout the years and
Yeah.
throughout the week. So
And it's not a one and done thing. Anyone who's been, aging cigars for a while knows that you have to stay on top of it. You got to check, you got to make sure that the water levels are good. If you've got a, hygrometer and a thermometer, you want to stay on top of that. I check mine every single day. It's in the living room, so when I'm leaving, I take a peek, make sure that it's good. Um, I have a device that provides humidity because I got tired of swapping out Bovitas all the time, trying to bring them back. So this guy will actually give me an alarm to my phone
you have
that'll
Cigar
tell me,
Oasis.
Cigar Oasis.
Okay,
It'll give me
that's what
that
I got.
alarm to my
Yep.
phone that tells me that, water is low, which means humidity is low. So I will stop what I'm doing, grab that device, take it to the kitchen, top it off with a little distilled water, plug it back in, and then, wait for that alarm to go away because it's recalibrated itself with the new addition of water. So yeah, it's you know, getting right back to Black Star Line, motto being cigars are a daily operation. You got to stay on top of those cigars because if you're not careful, you go in there 6 months later, you haven't opened it once, and now they're all dry, and you've had them, you know, in the kitchen, in the pantry somewhere, and you're an avid cook, and now those things have just been at 85 degrees the whole time, with no humidity. So yeah, you got to stay on top of it. You got to take your aging seriously with the humidity and the temperature, and you got to stay on top of it.
I mean, it is an expensive hobby. Even if you're a smoker that smokes
Yeah.
the $8, $9, $10 cigars, you're still kind of spending money,
Right.
and you want to make sure that the cigars are aged properly. And then for precaution, and I know you probably agree with that, for our viewer listeners out there, never store flavor or infused cigars with the regular cigars. That's a big, big no-no.
Under no circumstances,
Under no,
cellophane or not, it doesn't matter because, as we've said, that cellophane will breathe. And flavored cigars are just that. They're either dipped or they're infused. They're, some kind of way with a needle, with however they do it. Maybe the tobacco is flavored and infused before it's even rolled. Whatever the case may be, that flavor is ever present in that tobacco. And unless you want your padrones tasting like fat bottom Betty's or Java Reds
or acids.
or acids, you're gonna want to keep them apart. It's like when that one coworker who knows who they are brings fish and uses the company microwave. Now everything tastes like fish, you
And
know.
it's
So
so
yeah,
funny
so
because I did that
yeah,
about 3 weeks ago.
yeah. I mean, but you're doing it to yourself because I don't knock anybody that likes infused cigars, but you have to take precautions because if you want your natural tobacco to not taste like your infused tobacco, you got to keep them separate. This is where we go back to
Exactly.
Tupperdoors and smaller humidors. If you've got your big one and all the natural sticks are in there, get a small Tupperdoor off to the side and put your infused ones in there. Keep them separate because the whole point of smoking is you want to enjoy the flavor and you don't want that flavor ruined by external some external source, particularly if you're not a fan of infused cigars and maybe you have some for friends that do, or maybe your lady or your partner likes infused cigars. You don't. You want to keep them separate because it will taint the natural balance of that not infused cigar.
And then for the people out there taking the cellophanes that we talked about earlier, you cannot do that. I mean, having an acid off the cellophane next to a Padron or Davidoff is gonna absorb all the oils and every flavor possibly from an acid, and it's a big no no. I mean
I
that's
I actually learned this the hard way. Luckily, it did not involve cigars, but a very good friend of mine who's a very big avid cigar smoker, he's doing a nice thing for me. He said, "Hey, I got this infused stick. I want you to check it out. I know you're not that big into infused. I think you'll really like it." I said, "Okay." It did not have any cellophane on it. That was strike one. Strike two, I believe it was an orange chocolate infused cigar, which
What
sounds
brand?
odd. It was a hand roll from somewhere. It was not a manufacturer. He got it from somewhere. Strike two. And at the time, I had a 3 count cigar case that was lined in cedar. And I had smoked the 3 that I had in there, and I wasn't ready to smoke this one. So I said, okay, I'll just put it in there and I'll take it home. I'll smoke it at some point. This cigar was only in that case for 24 hours. And when I tell you the cedar absorbed every single note that cigar had to offer, to the point where I was afraid to put any other cigar in there. I basically had to Febreze this thing and let it sit for 6 months just to get that smell out of there. So cigars, the tobacco, it's the same way. You mentioned it's a sponge. It's going to absorb these flavors. Now, by and large, natural cigars don't have as strong of an aroma just, before it's lit, when it's sitting there, on the table or in the shop. It's not going to be as pungent as a infused cigar. So just imagine putting those two together. You've got your Padron with no cellophane. You've got this orange chocolate cigar over here, also no cellophane. You put them into the same box. You lock it down, airtight, humidity, temperature just right. There's going to be some sharing going on in there. And the Padron doesn't have a lot to give, but that orange chocolate cigar does. And now, a couple of months later, now you have an orange chocolate Padron. I don't know if that's what you wanted, but that's what you're going to end up with. So definitely, if you like your infused cigars, keep them separate from the natural cigars.
Yes, like you absolutely cannot do that. And even at Ultimate, there's a different section with all the flavors and the few
Yep.
cigars that I have over there,
Yep.
far away from the regular cigars.
Yeah.
And it's
They're
been,
actually on a table. They're not even on the shelf.
they're not even on the
There's a
shelf.
there's a table, and they're all just kind of stacked up together because, I mean, you're in a big room, so there's less chance that they're sharing the same air in the same way as a small humidor. But still, you take that precaution and you keep it separate because you don't want that cross contamination of aromas between the natural and the infused cigar.
And then before we close, if you have bought a box and you want to age it for a certain time, and you want what I've been doing, and actually a big example I did this is with the Drac from Tatuaje. I had 2 boxes, smoked the one. I still have 3 cigars left. Uh, but it's better, you can monitor easier the changes of the complexity or the intensity of the cigars throughout the years. So the cons of aging cigars is proven that the taste. This is the bottom line, in my opinion, because this is a lot. This is what I did this episode because there's a lot of people out there that say, "Oh, science is not behind this, and you don't have to age cigars. You could just smoke them the way they are because there's already aged tobacco."
I
And
disagree with that.
I disagree with that, and I did this for one person that asked me to do this episode because I definitely disagree because it can, the aging process, it changes a lot, and it has proven, even like we talked about it with a cigar that does not taste good. And believe it or not, I know you hate Gurkha, but Gurkha,
I'm not a fan. I won't say I
yeah,
hate it. I'm not a
yeah,
fan.
you're not a fan, but like
Yeah.
Gurkhas that I smoked, say after like 8, 10 years, they kind of taste better. Um, and not just Gurkha, but general cigars that I have put in my humidor, and then I went after a year and smoked it, and kind of changed my mind. And
Yeah.
the rule that I don't know if you have it, do you try after 2 times that you say, okay, I don't like the cigar, or you give it the first time and
Well, like I said, I try to do intervals. If I'm, you need more data for when you're doing experiments, right? So, who's to say that 2 weeks is enough? Who's to say that 6 months is enough? So, if I really want to get into it, and I've got a box, and as a sidebar, tobacco can have different personalities within that same box. So cigar 1 and cigar 8 may be different for whatever reason, but I'll smoke a couple initially. If they're decent after the first one, then I'll smoke the second one. If I smoke that first one, it's really tight, I'm not getting flavor, if it's all kind of issues. And by tight, what I mean is I'm not getting a good draw of the smoke through the cigar, or I have to continue lighting it because it keeps going out, something like that. If I see that being kind of a major problem, I won't go to the second one, but I will go back after about 3 weeks to a month of sitting. And hopefully that issue will have been resolved so that I can get to how does it burn? What's the flavor profile? That sort of thing. But yeah, I will revisit, after 3 or 4 intervals out to a year just to see how it changes. I mean, if it's good immediately, again, with the exception of the Amazon basin, because I ran through those things like a, madman. But for the most part, I'll give it anywhere between 6 months to a year just to see how it changes. And if it's gone from a C- to an A+ after a year, that kind of signals me to buy a box and just put the whole thing away. And I'll get to you a year later, because I know what's going to happen in a general sense with this particular cigar, with this particular face, with this particular Vitola. So if I'm buying a Series R Robusto and I go through the 3, 4 different steps, and I know after a year it's amazing, then I will certainly let it sit, for that long time. You know, there's a lot of things that go into it. As Marty just mentioned, you've got a palate change, you've got your feelings, how what you're dealing with, and this is something that we can get into later. But of course, pairing is another thing. A cigar is going to taste different with coffee than it will with bourbon. So all of these things come into play. So you know, to
and
answer the question, yeah,
even if you're sick, you had a bad, like, like Marty says, something you ate bad and you didn't like it. That's gonna affect the taste of the cigar, and it's
right.
absolutely
Mm.
right. That's gonna happen.
So
It's
that's
a
so
lot of
that's why I
factors.
say, yeah, that's why I say the more data the better. If you had a cold 3 days ago and you smoke, you're gonna perhaps think some kind of way about it. You got to take that into consideration. If you just had a big seafood dinner and then you smoke, got to take that into consideration. But definitely, all things being equal across the board, just strictly based on the cigar, the more data you have, the better decision you can make.
And a nice little trick that one of my friends from my Chi-Town crew does it actually. When he switches to a cigar, before he lights up the next cigar, he eats a little dark chocolate and replenish the palate. That
I've
way
heard
you can
that.
taste, and that way you taste the next cigar, and then you don't have back to back kind of the same taste in your mouth from back to back cigars. So
Didn't
it's a
make sense to me, but I've been to a couple of cigar shows, and a lot of the vendors will have a little chocolate at the table.
oh, so it is
I,
true.
I
Okay.
absolutely. I had no idea that's what it was going on. I'm thinking it's a nice little treat. Have a little chocolate. Some people pair chocolate with cigars, but it basically serves as a palate cleanser, and I wasn't
Pair
aware of that. So
Pairing cigars with like ice cream is really good, actually. Like I don't
yeah,
know, have you ever done it? But it's like
I've
it's
I've
like I like it.
I've never done that, but
It's really good, like
yeah,
really good. Um,
yeah.
that's another one.
Marty
Yeah,
mentioned about oranges too. I
yeah.
mean, citrus is generally thought of as a cleaner, so that makes sense to me. Just as long as it's not orange and chocolate, because I still have a little PTSD about that. Hopefully, we don't have to do that part again.
uh, we should do definitely a good pairing episode soon coming up with like
Yes.
edibles. But yeah, my cigar's coming to an end. You want to mention anything else to our viewers?
No. Glad to have been invited back. I love talking to you about, all things, in particular cigars. Want to give a shout out to the guys in the comments. They've really helped out and contributed as well. So thank you for all of your input. And
Mike and Marty, thank you guys.
sorry about that little technical glitch, but I think we kind of bounced back nicely,
Yeah,
So
came back. It
right.
happens.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
for the
yeah,
next
that's about it for me.
the next episode coming up Tuesday, the guys are gonna talk about the cigars terminologies, Vitola, Herf, Pilot, and all the cigar uh, words that we have out there that a lot of people don't know. And that's going to be the Tuesday episode. And thank you for guys for listening. See
Yeah,
you
thank
next
you so
time.
much.
See you next time, Sheldon. Have a great night. Thank you
Same to you,
guys.
Teddy. Have a
Have a
great
good
one.
one, man. You too,
Bye.
man. Bye.